and Democrat Gretchen Whitmer. The winner of this race replaces Governor Rick Snyder, who is term limited. Live coverage now on C-SPAN 2.
Governor. Tonight, the candidates answer the questions you care about. Live from the WDIV studios in downtown Detroit, this is Decision 2018, the Michigan Gubernatorial Debate. Good evening and welcome to the second and final debate between the Democratic and Republican candidates for governor, live from the WDIV studios here in downtown Detroit. The stakes are high, and we want you, the voters, to have as much information as possible before you head to the polls.
This debate is being seen live tonight across the state of Michigan, both on television and online. We're going to cover as many subjects as we can, as our hour will allow. And here's how it's going to work tonight. Both candidates will be answering the same question. Candidate 1 will have a minute to answer. Candidate 2 will then have a minute for their answer. Candidate 1 will get an automatic 30-second rebuttal, and then candidate 2 will get 30 seconds as well. And the candidates, by the way, will be alternating order throughout the hour.
So let's welcome Democratic candidate Senator Gretchen Whitmer and Republican candidate Attorney General Bill Schuette. A coin toss determined that Senator Whitmer will give her 2-minute opening statement first. Senator Whitmer.
Thank you. I think we all know that we are living in precarious times. Our country, our state, our neighborhoods can feel hopelessly divided. Yet I know that we can fix this. We can make Michigan a place where our kids stay, our families thrive, and other people come to for opportunity. We have a stark decision to make in this race for governor. Bill Schuette and I couldn't be more different. Bill Schuette shows up when the cameras are on, but when no one's watching, he makes decisions that hurt us. I worked with Governor Snyder to expand Medicaid in Michigan and get more people access to health care. Bill Schuette went to court. He filed 9 lawsuits to rip that health care away and to eliminate coverage and protections for people with pre-existing conditions. I'm fighting for my kids and for yours because I believe every Michigan child deserves a great public school education. Bill Schuette argued in court that our kids don't even have a right to literacy, and he supports Betsy DeVos's agenda. I believe everyone in the LGBTQ community deserves full civil rights because it's the right thing to do, and bigotry is bad for business. Bill Schuette wasted millions of our taxpayer dollars going all the way to the Supreme Court and losing in his battle against marriage equality. And I have a real plan to clean up the drinking water in Michigan and to protect this resource that is so unique to our state. Bill Schuette was asleep at the wheel when people called and asked him for help. 15 complaints came into his office, and he didn't do a darn thing until the cameras showed up. Real leadership is doing the right thing even when no one's watching. Real leadership means working across the aisle to deliver and to solve problems and not getting caught up in credit. If you're ready for a governor who can roll up her sleeves, build coalitions, and solve problems, I ask for your vote on November 6th.
Attorney General Schuette.
I'm Bill Schuette, and I'm working hard to serve as Michigan's next governor. My grandparents were teachers. My mom and dad were high school sweethearts. Grew up in the Great Depression, a time of difficulty for Michigan and America. When I was just a boy, 6 years old, my dad died of a heart attack. My mom, she was resilient, raised my 2 older sisters and me as a single mom. My wife, Cynthia, and I went to the same bus stop. And she and I, daughter Heidi and son Bill, attended public schools in Midland. And all the Schuettes still call Midland home. I'm running for governor because I want Michigan to grow. And I want people to call Michigan their home state, a place they live, not a vacation state, a place they visit. And I want Michigan to be a job state, a growth state, and a paycheck state. And the election, it's upon us right now. And the question for Michigan is, will we go forward or will we go backward? Well, we're going forward. We're not going backward because we've lived through one lost decade, the failed governorship of Jennifer Granholm. And you remember that, 15% unemployment, 500,000 lost jobs, and people left the state in droves. And here's my paycheck agenda. Cut your income tax, lower your auto insurance rates, rebuild our infrastructure, improve our schools, and quality and affordable health care. My opponent's agenda, Gretchen Whitmer and Garland Gilchrist, one word for it, friends, extreme, way extreme. Job-crushing tax increases, more mandates will drive families and businesses out of Michigan, and government-run health care, all the ingredients to go backwards. But we're going forward. A Michigan of big hopes and bold aspirations. A Michigan of more jobs, more people, and bigger paychecks. And folks, do this together. We can win again, Michigan.
Great. We're going to move into the questions now. Again, you'll both have a minute for this, and as we like to say, we will be polite but ruthless on enforcing our time limit tonight. The first question, Senator Whitmer, you'll be first on answering this. In the first debate a couple of weeks ago in Grand Rapids, you were asked to state very simply how much is it going to cost to fix our roads and where's the money going to come from. Your answers were not quite as simple as the question would seem to demand, so I'd like to try again. A recent independent infrastructure commission found that we need to be spending more than $2 billion a year on our roads. You both talked about drawing off money off of other budgets in the state and combining it with federal money. Which services or departments can expect to see money redirected toward our roadways? Are higher taxes a possibility? If so, what taxes? And I'd prefer to hear about your plan rather than your take on your opponent's plan. Senator Whitmer.
Sure. So I'm leading with a real infrastructure plan because I know families across Michigan are tired of paying the Republican road tax, which is in the form of replacing our windshields or our tires or getting alignments. I got to tell you, I talked to a woman the other day in Ann Arbor. She had an aneurysm and her ambulance took a longer route to the hospital. It was a life and death situation, but the shorter route was ridden with potholes. And I want you to think about this. There are buses full of kids who are on their way to school that are going over bridges that have temporary supports. We deserve better. That's why I'm leading with an infrastructure plan. I create a Rebuild Michigan Infrastructure Bank. I will write a budget in the first part of next year that actually dedicates $2 billion. It draws down $1 billion from the federal government, and it means we get to work right away. If the legislature is not strong enough to take those votes, I'll go straight to the public and pass a bond. We need real solutions. Our roads are endangering us and making
Senator,
us less competitive.
Attorney General Schuette, if you could, on the same matter.
You know, Michigan needs to be a first-class state, and we need to have roads that reflect the quality of the cars we build right here in Michigan. And nobody's on these roads more than I in our 83 counties and 2 peninsulas. And here's what we need to do. Number one, specifically, we need to make sure we have a full and complete audit of MDOT and how they allocate road funding across the state. Secondly, we need to have guarantees and warranties for our roads and bridges, just like any other product you might buy. And we need to have more federal funding coming from Washington. I'll walk right through the front door of the White House because of my relationships, call the Secretary of Transportation, Elaine Chao, a friend of mine, and be an advocate for more federal dollars coming to Michigan. And we're on the track right now of $1.2 billion through 2021 on road funding. I want to expand that, and every aspect of government is going to chip in because roads will be a priority. Now, my opponent, when she says she wants to fix the darn roads, she's going to raise your darn taxes. I'm going to protect your wallet. She's going to raise your taxes. It's an extreme approach, and it would take us back to the lost decade of 15% unemployment and people leaving
that's time,
the state.
Attorney General. Senator Whitmer, you have 30 seconds now to rebut.
Well, I want to correct the Attorney General. The saying is we're going to fix the damn roads, and I put a real solution on the table. No more of this baloney. I am tired of politicians that just give you talking points instead of real solutions. Saying you're going to walk through the front door of the Trump White House doesn't fix a single pothole in this state. And I'm tired of traveling roads that are falling apart. I'm tired of how uncompetitive it makes us, and I'm tired of how it's endangering citizens on our roads. We're going to get this done. We got to do it together. Phony talking points don't fix the problem.
And that is 30 seconds. You now have 30 seconds as well, Attorney General Schuette.
You know, listen, getting more road funding from Washington back to Michigan would help our roads. And listen, Senator Whitmer's approach is just more taxes. Her economic policies is a 3-letter word, tax, and will send us into a spiral, and will cost more jobs, and Michigan will fall behind again. Her infrastructure bank, it's going to be filled with your taxes. I'm going to protect your wallet, and Senator Whitmer wants to raise your taxes. That's the wrong approach. It's extreme.
All right, thank you both. Mr. Attorney General, you will answer this next question first. Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan has filed a lawsuit against the state's no-fault insurance system, arguing that affordability was a court-ordered demand of that system at its inception. Many Michiganders, and specifically Detroiters, have found that auto insurance is beyond their means. Does the mayor's argument have merit? Is it time to end unlimited coverage, no-fault insurance in Michigan, or is this just simply the price of having the nation's best and most thorough system of insurance?
You know, Mayor Duggan and I will work together to lower auto insurance rates in the state of Michigan, because I was at a parade not long ago in St. Clair Shores, and a guy came up to me twice in the parade and told me the story about his daughter not moving to Michigan because of the high cost of auto insurance. And we need to cut auto insurance rates by stopping frivolous lawsuits, number one. Second, making sure we crack down on insurance fraud and give people across the state options and choices in terms of insurance coverage. Now, Gretchen Whitmer has been part of the establishment for 14 years in Lansing, only passed 3 bills and did nothing to do anything to stop auto insurance rates from rising. And her record, frankly, doesn't mean anything in terms of lowering auto insurance rates. I will, and I'll make sure we give Michigan families a pay raise by cutting auto insurance rates and making sure that Michigan is a place where we attract people instead of having people not come to Michigan because of the high cost of auto insurance.
All right, Senator Whitmer.
I cannot believe that the Attorney General can say with a straight face that I'm a part of the establishment. He has literally been in office for 33 years. He has been the Attorney General for the last 8 years, and he didn't initiate a single suit for price gouging from the insurance industry. He didn't do anything to bring transparency or to crack down on fraud. In fact, Governor Snyder had to create a fraud committee because Bill Schuette wasn't doing his job. I am proud to have the endorsement of Mayor Duggan. We are going to work together to bring down the cost of car insurance, because I know Detroiters look first at the cost of insurance before they even look at their car note. And that's money out of rent, out of groceries. But we got to do it in a really smart way that goes after fraud, that makes insurance companies transparent and accountable to the ratepayers, that ensures that there is no redlining and discrimination against you based on where you live or what your education level is or what your credit rating is. We can do this in a way that still protects people
Senator,
that are tragically injured.
Thank you. We'll have 30 seconds for a rebuttal, Mr. Attorney General.
Well, Senator Whitmer has no plan to drop auto insurance rates, and I do. We'll crack down on insurance fraud, stop frivolous lawsuits, and she's part of the, she's captive of the trial lawyers. And what I'll do is make sure that we bring people together, the hospitals, the insurance companies, and we'll drop auto insurance rates and give Michigan families a pay raise. And Senator Whitmer, she's been, she's with big insurance. She hasn't fought for us. Whose side is she on? She's on the big insurance side.
All right, and Senator Whitmer, 30 seconds.
Well, that's just ridiculous. Nonsense, and he knows it. The fact of the matter is I have been on the front line fighting for consumers because our Attorney General, Bill Schuette, wasn't doing his job. This is going to take leadership. This is not something that can be fixed unilaterally. We're going to have to build a coalition to do this, and as the only person who has any success at crossing the aisle and delivering for people in this state when it came to Medicaid expansion, I know how to get it done. I'll work with Mayor Duggan. I will work with all the stakeholders, and I'll make sure that you're protected as well.
Our next question, you'll both have a minute on this matter. The United Nations recently released a deeply alarming report that suggests we are running out of time to have an impact on the climate change that threatens our planet. When President Trump announced a withdrawal from the Paris Agreement, 14 governors across the country announced that they were going to vow to meet the demands of the agreement anyway and craft state policies to fight global warming. I'm wondering if you think those 14 governors were right. What's your takeaway on this United Nations report, and what approach would your administration have to dealing with climate change? Senator Whitmer.
I do think those governors are right. And as governor of Michigan, I will enter Michigan into the U.S. Climate Alliance until we have a president that gets us as a country back into the Paris Accords. This is a mandate. 2018 was one of the hottest years on record. And I think about my kids and what, hopefully their kids as well, what we are leaving for them. I got to tell you, it is time for us to grow our renewable energy portfolio so that we lower our emissions and greenhouse gases, that we make the investments so that we are the state that is doing the advanced manufacturing around wind turbines and solar panels. It uses less fresh water, which we've got to be better stewards of as well. What I won't do is pretend that climate change isn't real. My opponent, Bill Schuette, filed a brief on our behalf with our tax dollars on behalf of ExxonMobil that says climate change is unsettled science. I believe in science, and we are going to take Michigan forward.
And that is time. Attorney General Schuette.
You know, climate change is real, and the Earth is getting warmer. We need to make sure that every nation is part of a solution. But it can't just be the United States of America. China and other countries need to be part of this as well. Now, listen. Gretchen's economic plans, frankly, are economic collapse plans. What she wants to do is have more taxes, which will go back to the lost decade. And I support the fact that the administration has cut taxes across America, and now we're bringing production of the Ram truck from Mexico to Michigan, 2,500 jobs, $1 billion investment at the Warren Truck Plant right here in southeastern Michigan, and that's because the administration and Republicans in Congress have cut taxes. Cutting taxes mean more jobs, and the president is trying to rebalance trading relationships because the forgotten manufactured worker that got messed with by the global economy, they didn't participate in all that growth, but now we're going to get more jobs in Michigan by balancing trading relationships, cutting taxes, and that's what's important for Michigan's future.
Gretchen Whitmer, you've got 30 seconds to rebut.
I told you in the beginning, Bill Schuette is going to try to rewrite his record. My job is to make sure you know who is who here. The fact of the matter is he can tell you right now while the cameras are on that he believes in climate change. However, he used our taxpayer dollars to put together a lawsuit on behalf of ExxonMobil that claims that climate change is unsettled science. When he was in the legislature, he voted in favor of drilling for oil in the Great Lakes. Part of the problem are the policies that Bill Schuette has pushed.
And that's time. And Bill Schuette, you have the last half minute on this matter.
You know, facts are stubborn things, and what you, Senator Whitmer said is just not true. I fought to make sure that we save businesses from having onerous taxes that the Obama administration couldn't get through Congress, and they're doing an end run around the Constitution. So you've got the facts wrong, and the real fact is your economic plans are an economic collapse plans. More mandates, which would drive families and businesses out of Michigan, and more taxes would take us into an economic ditch back to the lost decade. We're going to go forward in Michigan, not backward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to the subject of water now. Whether it's Flint, Detroit Public Schools, Line 5 in the Mackinac Straits, the Nestle deal, or the increased alarm over what we're hearing about PFAS, Michiganders have been boiling mad about water. Of the many water issues in the state, viewers and commenters on our social media sites are most upset here recently about Nestle's $200 a year deal to bottle Michigan water. What would you do about it? And more generally, which of you will be the better custodian for Michigan's most precious natural resource? Mr. Attorney General, we'll start with you.
You know, stewardship of our Great Lakes is something that's etched in our DNA. Whether you like fishing as I do, you want to walk along a Lake Michigan beach and see a sunset, or watch the sun rise on Lake Huron. We have this responsibility. And that's why I'm opposed to any diversion of Great Lakes water. That's why I support the ballast discharge rules we have in Michigan that are tougher than federal standards. And with respect to Flint, I'm the only person here on this stage that made sure we provided justice for families of Flint. Because I know families in Flint right now that only drink water from a plastic bottle and only wash vegetables from water with a plastic bottle. And I made sure there's an independent investigation. In Flint, the water crisis is about accountability, and it's about justice for families of Flint. Now, Senator Whitmer's done nothing about the environment in her 14 years in the legislature, only passed 3 bills, and has done nothing in her economic programs, would shut down our economy, providing less resources to help us with the environment and make sure we keep our beaches clean.
And that is time. Senator Whitmer.
Well, my opponent is confusing recreation with the fundamental right to clean drinking water. I think about the families in Flint every time I turn on my tap. But the scary truth is that the state that is home to 21% of the world's fresh water has dozens of communities that have high lead in their water right now coming out of their tap, and dozens more that have PFAS that is leaching into our drinking water. The fact of the matter is we need to create a Department of the Great Lakes and Fresh Water that is tasked with overseeing the stewardship of this resource that is all of ours. A drinking water ombudsman at the cabinet level is something that I am committed to, because when their problems arise, we need to take action. We need to shut down corporate threats to our water. We need to hold polluters accountable and get to work cleaning up the drinking water in the state of Michigan. It is appalling, the state of water and the state of the lack of safety in our water. And our Attorney General hasn't done anything.
And that is time. Attorney General Schuette, you have 30 seconds for a rebuttal, and I want to remind you that we do want to know what you would do about Nestle.
You know, the situation in Flint is such that, you know, pastors feel they're gut punched by the state. And Gretchen Whitmer has done nothing in terms of environmental policy in her 14 years in the legislature. The only bill she passed concerning water was something about regulating swimming pools. That doesn't help families in Flint. And with respect to Nestle, all these issues need to be done on solid science. It's the 21st century. We can have economic development and we can have water that is produced at Nestle.
Senator Whitmer.
Well, that's exactly the kind of gobbledygook answer that people are so tired of. When it comes to Nestle, I don't believe that they should be taking the water out of our ground and selling it. And I want to stop that. I also want to get the oil out of the Great Lakes. I want to get to work suing on behalf of the communities that have PFAS. Governor Snyder asked the Attorney General to initiate that suit last July. He still has done nothing, just like he didn't step up and answer calls from people for Flint for 2 years while their kids were brushing their teeth with leaded water.
And that's just not true. I filed charges against
I'm sorry. I don't think we have a...
We got to move on to the next question, I'm afraid. If you want to come back to that on your own time, you'll have to do that later. We'll move to the next question, which is about immigration. Currently, several thousand people are trying to make their way through Mexico from Honduras with an eye toward reaching the United States. And this migrant caravan has poured jet fuel on the national immigration debate. Michigan, of course, has a rich cross-section of immigrant communities. Much of the debate has, of course, centered on illegal immigration, but we've come to find this year that right now, Michigan has seen a 75% decrease in legal refugees arrivals. In fact, it's been a national record low this year on across the country. I would like your thoughts on immigration and whether Michigan should be a sanctuary state. Senator Whitmer.
Well, I understand the anxiety that we all feel about this issue because we have a broken immigration system in this country, and it's not working. We need leadership out of Washington, D.C. to step up. But here's what I know. Michigan was built by immigrants. The Finns came to the UP, the Dutch went west, Middle Easterners came to Dearborn, all for opportunity and a good life right here in Michigan. And it is a strength that we have. But what I can tell you is that as a mom, as a Michigander, as an American, I was outraged and heartbroken when I saw the Trump administration rip children away from their parents. That is not who we are. Those are not Michigan values. As governor, I will stand up to an administration that does that. I will work to make sure that we protect jobs and that this is a place where people come to make a good life again. But I will not stand silently by when the Trump administration separates kids and their parents.
Attorney General, you have a minute on this.
You know, I met with a new American, someone who just received his citizenship, and it made you feel so proud to hear his pride when he shared with me that now he's an American citizen. And our immigration policy in America needs to be hopeful and welcoming, but you got to play by the rules, and you have to make sure we protect our border. And when I'm governor, there'll be no sanctuary cities in Michigan. Now, Senator Whitmer, if she has her way, she'd make Michigan a sanctuary state. She wants to disband ICE. Her Lieutenant Governor choice, Garland Gilchrist, wants to eliminate the Department of Homeland Security. And those are extreme positions. They're reckless. And Garland Gilchrist as well has had these anti-Semitic, anti-Israeli tweets, these pro-Hamas rants. Hamas is a terrorist organization. And choosing that first decision shows bad judgment on Senator Whitmer's part. When I'm governor of Michigan, there'll be no sanctuary cities. And Gretchen Whitmer, if she has her way, Michigan will be a sanctuary state. That's extreme. That will not happen in Michigan.
Senator Whitmer.
Don't listen to that nonsense. This is a desperate campaign that is flailing to stay alive. Here's the fact of the matter. If you watched the news tonight, you saw hatred, you saw fear, you saw terrorism. For this guy to stand here and call me extreme and imply all sorts of things is ridiculous. And that's the kind of rhetoric has created this ugly environment in this country. I am running against that too. I'm running against bad roads and schools that are falling behind, but I'm running against this nasty rhetoric that is coming out of Bill Schuette and the Trump administration.
And that is time. A half minute for you now, Attorney General.
And she never answered the question. Senator Whitmer did not answer the question about sanctuary cities. I'm opposed. If she had her way, Michigan would be a sanctuary state. She wants to disband ICE. I think that's reckless and extreme. Her proposed running mate, Garland Gilchrist, wants to eliminate the Department of Homeland Security. That's extreme. That's way out of the mainstream. That's why this race, which is so close, it's a jump ball. I'm going to win this because people don't want Michigan to be a sanctuary state.
I want to talk about mental health. By so many measures, Michigan's mental health system is severely lacking. We're hardly alone in that distinction, but watch any newscast or read any newspaper story about a violent crime, and it frequently seems connected to a mental health issue, whether we're talking about homelessness, drug use, domestic violence. What is your specific plan for improving Michigan's mental health services? And if we're going to invest more in it, where will that money come from? Attorney General Schuette.
Now, certainly there's a mental health crisis in this state when you see some of the tragic shootings across this country, when the people have raised their hand in a figurative sense asking for help and they receive none. We need to provide assistance. That means here in the state of Michigan we're going to have to up and increase our mental health services for people. And it goes to the opioid crisis as well, because this opioid crisis is real, where we have more prescriptions for opioids than citizens of this state. And we need to make sure that we crack down on the over distribution of opioids. I've joined with 40 other attorneys general to do just that. And how would we get these resources? We have to have Michigan to grow. My paycheck agenda is about cutting taxes, lowering auto insurance rates, and that'll stimulate our economy to grow. And we can't be a smaller, less significant state. I want to make sure that Michigan grows, and we need to cut taxes so we can compete with other states across this country.
All right, Senator Whitmer, the same question to you.
Well, sadly, Michigan's mental health system never recovered after the Engler years, and we've not had a mental health advocate at the cabinet level. We've fallen behind. But one of the things that differentiates me from my opponent is that I work to expand access to health care in this state, and we've got more work to do. I crossed the aisle and I worked with Governor Snyder to get it done. 680,000 people in our state got health care coverage because of that. $2.3 billion of economic activity, 30,000 jobs. That all is a stride, but we've got more work to do. The problem is that my opponent wants to rip that all away and do away with it. He's filed 9 lawsuits to do exactly that. This is a dire circumstance. We have to keep moving toward getting more people covered in this state, not fewer.
All right, Attorney General Bill Schuette, you'll have 30 seconds to rebut.
In her 14 years in the legislature, Gretchen Whitmer only passed 3 bills, did nothing to help on mental health, did nothing to do on health, didn't do anything to accomplish on health care. Now, I want to make sure that we have affordable and accessible health care for everyone, and that we maintain pre-existing conditions. And Gretchen Whitmer has done nothing in her 14 years. And you know what? I filed suits against Obamacare because it didn't work. Taxes went up, and you couldn't choose your own doctor. But I always maintained coverage for pre-existing conditions.
Senator?
I know it's a foreign concept to the Attorney General, but you can get a lot done if you don't care about credit. During the time that I was in the legislature, I was in the minority, but you know what? I got a lot done. 680,000 people got health care coverage because of that work. I'm grateful that Governor Snyder embraced the Affordable Care Act. Unfortunately, his own Attorney General has filed lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, 9 of them, to rip that coverage away and eliminate protections for people with pre-existing conditions.
That's just not true.
Our next question.
We have to move on.
Got to move on to our next question. Detroit's transit woes ended up getting an awful lot of the blame, I guess you'd say, in our failure to make the cut for Amazon's second world headquarters. But on closer inspection, a big part of that failure was a lack of talent, workers who were prepared for the jobs that Amazon is offering. You've both talked a lot about preparing more workers for the skilled trades, but the fact is robots and technology are going to continue to put pressure on employment. How do we build the workforce of the 21st century? Senator Whitmer, you've got a minute.
Well, there's a point in time in Michigan's great history where we had the most talented, skilled workforce on the planet. And right now we do have a talent gap. It was one of the reasons that Amazon cited for not keeping us in the top 20. We have too few people that have 2-year degrees, 4-year degrees, and too few people that are in the trades. There is not one path for everyone, but every one of us deserves a path to a high-wage job. And that means we've got to connect people to skills. That's why my Opportunity Scholarship that I have included in my economic plan connects people to a debt-free 2-year degree after they leave high school. And they can use that toward bringing down the cost of a 4-year degree. Or in high school, take advantage of an opportunity to get some certificates toward a path into the skilled trades, because college is not for everyone. The fact of the matter is we've got to prioritize meeting the skills gap by making sure that every one of us has a real path to a high wage skill.
That's time. Attorney General Schuette.
Michigan's future is about more jobs and bigger paychecks, and my paycheck agenda starts with cutting taxes so you have more money back in your pocket and lowering auto insurance rates to improve our economy and attract more people here in this state. Now, Gretchen Whitmer's record, 14 years in this legislature, she's only passed 3 bills, and she voted against further enhancements for skilled trades and apprenticeships. And we need to make sure that families have choices. And our high school graduates, some will go on to college, but some will be career ready. We need to have more flexible seat time. And she voted against flexible seat times and voted against incentives for and changing to have more apprenticeships and skilled trades in the legislature. That's wrong. And her economic plans would take Michigan into a ditch. And if Gretchen Whitmer is elected governor, your job's in danger because of her high taxes and more mandates which would crush economic growth in Michigan.
Senator Whitmer, I assume you'd like a rebuttal.
Well, the Attorney General has the same talking points for every question. You forgot to use the word extreme in that one, Bill. Give me a break. The fact of the matter is, if we're going to get people to work, if we're going to connect people to high-wage jobs and be a state that gets investment here, we got to get serious about fixing infrastructure, closing the talent gap, and get busy with regard to economic development. I want to put the MEDC to work, throwing shovels in the ground on a 52-week jobs blitz. That's the exciting stuff that we can do together to make a difference.
And Attorney General Schuette, you've got 30 seconds.
Again, these economic plans of Senator Whitmer's are more government, more taxes, and talk about breaks. You would make the state go broke with your high taxes, and we'd revisit the lost decade of Jennifer Granholm. And Senator Whitmer was one of the architects of the lost decade of 15% unemployment, 500,000 lost jobs, and people left the state in droves. We can't have a replay of that. That's what will happen if Gretchen Whitmer, it's easy to get them confused, if Gretchen Whitmer's governor. That's the problem. That's the truth.
And that's time. My next question is about education, and Mr. Attorney General, you will answer first on this one. When it comes to education, every single politician in the history of debate seems to say it's time we put the kids first. We've been hearing that for a long time here in Michigan, even as other states and other nations have leapfrogged a falling state education system. Why are we failing the kids that we profess to put first? And I'm giving you each 3 cards to play that would fix the problem or at least begin to repair the damage in Michigan schools. So, Mr. Attorney General, I ask you, what are your 3 cards? How would you repair the education system?
Well, my wife Cynthia and I and our children went to public schools. But today, across Michigan, our 3rd grade reading scores are among the lowest in the nation. That's outrageous. That has to change. Michigan's been described as, America's been described as a shining city on a hill. But if you can't read the directions to get there, you're out of luck. I would do number 1. We need to grade our schools A through F to make sure that families get a report card on which schools are showing great performance and which are not. Second, reward those schools that are showing improvement with incentive grants. I think that's important. Believe incentives and reward those schools for achieving excellence. And I'll appoint a literacy director in the cabinet because of the significance of reading. And we'll hire summer reading coaches and have a culture of reading in Michigan. Now, in Gretchen Whitmer's 14 years in the legislature, she is a captive of the education establishment, doesn't want to have choices and options and charters for families, and we'd be in the same approach of at the bottom.
That is time. That is time. Senator Whitmer, 3 ways you would begin to fix the problem, the education problem.
Well, I am a proud parent of kids in the public schools. I was at conferences last week and I was talking to their teachers, amazing people who dedicate their lives to educating our kids. But I got to tell you, our teachers are demoralized. Parapros, bus drivers, everyone who makes up our education system, they're demoralized because they've been under attack. The fact of the matter is, we need a governor who really is going to turn this around with regard to education. We're in the bottom 10 in our country, where we used to lead the world. So the three things I would do: universal early childhood education so that every incoming kindergartner is ready to learn. Treat teachers and our educators with respect. Make sure not one of them is on the bridge card, that they can put food on the table because they are professionals we rely on. And tripling the number of literacy coaches. That is how we turn things around. We don't need a governor who is beholden to the DeVos agenda, who goes to court and says kids don't have a constitutional right to literacy. We need a governor who's a mom, who's going to fight for her kids.
I have to cut you off there. I'm sorry you didn't get to your third point. Mr. Attorney General, you have 30 seconds for a rebuttal.
Again, facts are stubborn things, and the real fact is that Senator Whitmer is a captive of the education establishment and hasn't done anything to improve reading scores in her 14 years in the legislature. We need to make sure we have a culture of reading in Michigan and improve our third grade reading scores. I'll have literacy coaches and have summer reading camps and a Michigan Reading Foundation so we can make sure that kids in the summer and throughout the school year have coaches and mentors to make sure they read. When I'm governor, Michigan's children will read.
All right, Senator Whitmer.
Well, it's really no wonder that teachers support me. You know why? Because I support teachers. I'm not the Attorney General that went to court for years and kept them from getting the 3% that should have been in their paychecks. A real paychecks governor wouldn't steal 3% from teachers and parapros and the people that do the hard work of educating our kids. I'm proud to have their support.
I want to stay with education on the next question. You've both said that college isn't for everyone, and that's true. But for those who aspire to it, it has moved out of reach of many of them, unless they're willing to take on insane debt where they're still trying to pay off student loans 10 to 15 years after they've left school. Former Governor Engler, now the interim president at Michigan State, challenged you both in an opinion piece recently in Bridge Magazine about what we do about this duplicitous world where the state forces tuition control at the same time that it's taking away funding. What do we do to put this terribly important component of education back within reach? Senator Whitmer.
Well, it's kind of funny that Governor Engler's making that case right now because honestly, he started tuition restraint as a policy in state government. It's funny how the world changes, right? The fact of the matter is we've got to make higher education affordable for people. We are downright taxed out of college. I've got kids who are in high school right now and they're thinking about what their next steps are. And while we have some of the most amazing universities on the planet, too few Michiganders can actually afford to pursue a four-year degree in this state. And that's why my Opportunity Scholarship, that is a part of my economic package, is a debt-free two-year degree for anyone who wants to pursue that, or using that kind of investment toward bringing down the cost of a four-year degree. There is not one path for everyone, but everyone in our state deserves a path. I'm proud to be a Michigan State Spartan. I hope that my kids stay in state and go to a university here, and I'm going to work to make sure it's affordable for all of our kids.
Attorney General Schuette, how do we make college more affordable?
You know, as governor, we need to make sure that parents and families have choices. Now, not every high school graduate will go right to college. Some want to go into the workforce. We need to make sure that our high school graduates are career ready and workforce ready. Apprenticeships and skilled trades are very, very important. Example, DTE has a partnership with Randolph High School and Henry Ford Community College. It's a mentorship to train and have a job when people leave high school. That's a great example for us to follow across Michigan. And we need to make sure that these apprenticeships and skilled trade groups are done regionally. So it's designed by regions, not by Lansing. And I'll work with high schools and with colleges and the collegiate team to make sure we have proper outcomes for students, proper funding for schools, and the most most important thing, we have to have a strong economy, or we won't have the resources to fund high school or
and it's
colleges.
time. Senator Whitmer, you've got 30 seconds.
Well, I'm eager to work with the leaders at all of our institutions of higher education, but I'm also eager to work with people in the business community. I'm grateful that the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce endorsed me in this election, the first Democrat they've endorsed since 1990. And I think it's because we are going to build a coalition that addresses the skills gap, the talent gap in the state. We have to do it together. And that's why we need a governor who can build a coalition, bring people together, and make sure that every one of us has that real path to a high.
Mr. Schuette.
You know, the best approach for high school and for college education is a strong economy. And I have the support of the Michigan Chamber of Commerce, business leaders of Michigan, the realtors and the retailers, and the list goes on, because they know my paycheck agenda will drive jobs in the state. And Senator Whitmer's agenda is an economic collapse plan. It'll take us back. We have to go forward and build on the success of the last 8 years. I'll do that, but raising taxes and having more government mandates will send us backward, and that's not where Michigan will go in November.
This next question comes from a viewer, and it concerns the false fraud scandal. We've had tens of thousands of Michiganders wrongly accused of unemployment insurance fraud. The lucky ones only lost benefits and paid fines. Others, though, had to file for bankruptcy, and some lost their homes. It's a matter that's currently before the state Supreme Court. The Attorney General's office is arguing the case on behalf of the Unemployment Insurance Agency. I suppose your responsibilities can change if you move from the AG's office to governor, but to both of you as governor, what would you do about the more than 40,000 people who are caught up in this? Attorney General.
I think all the people who got ripped off by the Unemployment Insurance Agency should be reimbursed and made whole. They got ripped off, and that was wrong. Now, my job as Attorney General is to represent the departments of government, and quite frankly, I think this whole lawsuit is the wrong approach. What we need to do in Michigan is make sure we have a stronger economy. That's why I want to cut and eliminate the Granholm-Whitmer income tax increase that was supposed to have been temporary, and has cost Michigan families $8 billion since it was put into place in 2007. And we need to cut auto insurance rates and give Michigan families a pay raise. That's how we drive our state forward. Now, Senator Whitmer's economic plans, more taxes, gouge your wallet, and if her economic plans go forward, let me put a warning label on everything. Your job is in jeopardy, because higher taxes, more mandates would stop growth, and it'll take us back to the lost decade. We can't do that. We have to go forward. That's what we will do when Bill Schuette's governor.
All right, Senator Whitmer, I ask you the same question about the false fraud scandal.
Well, I have to imagine some motions are going to be filed now after that statement, especially the first part of it. You know, we need government to work for people again. We need politicians who understand that they are public servants. This Unemployment Insurance Agency scandal has ruined lives in the state. 40,000 people. The Attorney General likes to say he's going to be a paycheck governor when he went after and is still pursuing people who are wrongfully accused of fraud by our state, ruining people's lives. It is cruel. It is an abuse of power, and we deserve better. But there's no question that this next governor is going to play a major role in how that shakes out. And as governor, I'm always going to stand up to make sure that people are treated fairly, that they get a just result. There's opportunity in this state.
All right, Mr. Attorney General, you have 30 seconds.
Listen, the question that will be posed to Michigan in just a few short days is all about whether we're going forward or going backward. I think we need to build on the success of the last 8 years. And Senator Whitmer wants to take us backward. She'll repeal right to work. She wants to raise taxes. She wants to reinstate the prevailing wage statute that is making sure we have cost controls in public construction projects. And she just wants to raise taxes on anything that moves. That would take us back into an economic ditch. We need to go forward in Michigan. We can't go backward. That's the decision.
That is time. Senator Whitmer, 30 seconds.
Well, that's ridiculous. And I opposed the retirement tax when it was running through the legislature. A part of the Republican tax package that Bill Schuette says was great news for taxpayers. No, it wasn't. There are a lot of hardworking people in this state who played by the rules, and the government changed them on them at the last moment. That's what a failure of government looks like. Those are the people that I care about, that I fight for every single day.
And again, I'm
got to move on to our next question. This past weekend, the New York Times reported on the efforts of the Trump administration to roll back protections and even recognition of people who are transgendered. That comes as we in this state have been debating whether the Michigan Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act should be expanded to include protections for the LGBTQ discrimination problem. What is the right way forward on this issue? And mindful of the now famous birthday cake case, how do you protect the religious freedoms of those whose faith sees anything other than heterosexuality as a sin? Senator Whitmer.
I believe that it is time for Michigan to get on the right side of history. This is 2018. We need to amend the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act so that everyone in the LGBTQ community has full civil rights and can't lose their job or lose their home because of who they are or who they love. It is wrong and it is bad for business. I am going to fight every single day until we amend our Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act to do just that. My opponent, on the other hand, wasted millions of taxpayer dollars on his failed crusade against marriage equality, taking it all the way to the Supreme Court, putting junk scientists on the stand and embarrassing us as a state. We deserve better. There's a reason businesses have left the Grand Rapids Chamber of Commerce because they endorsed him, because they know bigotry is bad for business.
Attorney General, you've got a minute.
You know, I was raised by a single mom. And my mom and my two sisters taught me the importance of treating everybody the same. You treat everybody as a family. And you treat everybody with grace and dignity, respect, and honor. And that's what I'll do as the next governor of the state of Michigan. And I'll make sure that any law that is passed, whether it's Elliott Larson or any other law, is free from discrimination on anyone, whether it's race, color, creed, gender, sexual orientation, religion, no matter what. We must have a state that's free from discrimination. And we need to have a state that is diverse and it reflects the mosaic of Michigan. And the best way to assist in that is make sure we have a strong economy. Now, I want to cut taxes, and Gretchen Whitmer wants to raise taxes. I want to make sure we lower auto insurance rates, and Gretchen Whitmer has done nothing to lower auto insurance rates in her 14 years as the legislature. We need to make sure we have a strong economy and a diverse workforce. And Gretchen Whitmer's economic plans, they take us back to the lost decade.
Senator Whitmer, you've got 30 seconds rebuttal if you'd like.
I've met so many people across our state who are part of the LGBTQ community who simply want respect and protection under the law. Bill Schuette would be the most anti-LGBTQ governor this state's ever had if he wins this race. You don't have to just trust me on this. Do the research. He's been in office for 33 years and has fought LGBT community. You can't listen and believe the things that he says in these last 3 months. They fly in the face of all the work.
And that's time. Attorney General, you've got 30 seconds left.
Again, the fact is, my mom and my two sisters, I was raised by 3 women, taught me to respect everyone with dignity, grace, and honor. And that's what I'll do as your next as your next governor. And, you know, Senator Whitmer's economic plans would drive us back. They take us back to the lost decade of 15% unemployment, 500,000 jobs lost in our state, and people leaving the state in droves. We have to go forward. Her agenda, Senator Whitmer's agenda, would take us back. We're not going there. We're going forward.
All right, my next question is about gerrymandering. It's quick and to the point. Specifically, how will you vote on Proposal 2? Mr. Attorney General, we'll start with you. And why will you vote the way you vote?
I'm voting against Proposal 2. I think that we should have the ability, like 40 other states do, for individual voting, exercising people's discretion and honor and thoughtfulness in every vote we have. Listen, Michigan's decision coming up in a few days is about whether we go forward or backward. We need to make sure we cut taxes. We need to lower auto insurance rates. We need to improve our schools and rebuild our roads. That's the most important thing that will drive our state forward. My Paycheck paycheck agenda will do that. Senator Whitmer's economic policy, it's an economic collapse plan. It would take us back. And remember, I saw a guy the other day who said, Bill, you got to win. We can't go backwards. He's a home builder. Remember when home values are underwater? People would leave their homes, leave their keys on the kitchen counter and go. We can't have that. We got to go forward in Michigan, not backward. And Senator Whitmer's economic plan would take us backward. We have to go forward in Michigan.
Senator Whitmer, the same question to you about gerrymandering. How will you vote on Proposal 2 and why?
Well, I'm going to be a yes vote, and I commend the people that did the work for Voters Not Politicians. It was an all-volunteer army of people that have had it with politics as usual, who want government that represents us, that works for us, the people again. I think that the gerrymandering that the Michigan legislature has done to pick their constituents instead of constituents picking our legislators has contributed to this environment where one family decides education policy in this state, where we're now in the bottom 10, where they continue to take away the strides we've made when it comes to health care. If you're happy with potholes, if you're happy being in the bottom 10 in our country in education, if you don't want us to continue moving forward and expanding health care, then vote now, because the system is rigged, and that's why he likes it the way that it is.
Okay, Attorney General Schuette, 30 seconds.
The decision in Michigan is about whether we go forward, not backward. And part of this is the decision about the extreme agenda of Senator Whitmer and Garland Gilchrist. This is a guy who has anti-Semitic tweets, supports supportive tweets of Hamas, a terrorist organization, wants to disband the Department of Homeland Security, and Senator Whitmer wants to disband ICE. That's extreme. That's out of the mainstream. That's not where Michigan should go. We need to make sure we have more jobs and bigger paychecks and go forward, build on the success of the last 8 years.
Senator Whitmer, 30 seconds.
Well, the fact of the matter is that our legislature doesn't work for us right now because it is so gerrymandered. When I was the leader of the Senate Democrats, I was the leader of 12 people. Despite the fact that he blames me for everything that happened under Republican control, I was the leader of 12 people. We earned almost 50% of the votes that year, but they've so rigged the rules that they have a supermajority. You want a legislature that works for you again? You should be a yes vote on Proposal 2 as well.
Senator, Attorney General, we've arrived at our last question, and in fact, because of where we're on time constraints, there'll be no rebuttals to this, but you'll both have a minute on this final thought. Just today, we have seen pipe bombs sent through the mail to an array of former government officials, including former presidents. Tonight, we don't know very much about who sent them or why, but we do know that we are a bitterly divided nation right now, divided state. We even have divided families. And I'm wondering how much thought either of you have put into bridging that divide and finding a way to bring us all back together. Senator Whitmer.
Well, thank you. I think that that's such an important question, and today it is so vivid for so many of us. You turn on the news and you see another shooting in Kentucky. You see pipe bombs being sent to public servants, and it is horrifying. That's what the rhetoric that is happening in this country has emboldened, has enabled. When my opponent stands here and calls me extreme, you know what I'm extreme on? I'm extreme on believing that we can do better in Michigan. That I think about my kids when I stand here and I talk about the issues, whether it's clean water or making our roads safe. I'm focused on fixing problems. I worked with Governor Snyder to do some great things when it comes to expanding health care or anti-bullying protections. And I think it is time for us to have a civil society where we have robust but respectful debate. That's what I am committed to. We deserve better. We must insist better from everyone who's running for office.
Attorney General, how will you bring us closer together?
You know, certainly the polarization we've seen across America today, where we're shouting at each other instead of having discussion, that has to cease. And, you know, I commend President Trump for calling for unity with the pipe bombs and the concerns about the safety of President Obama, Secretary Clinton, and others who had pipe bombs at their doorstep. And we need to have a full and complete criminal investigation and bring those people to justice. Now, let me just say that, Senator Whitmer, you did no heavy lifting trying to get Medicaid through the Michigan Senate, because all the Democrats wanted Obamacare. So you did no strenuous activity. And what really is extreme is the fact What's extreme is the fact that you want to disband ICE. You've said that Garland Gilchrist wants to eliminate the Department of Homeland Security. That's extreme. And that Kavanaugh circus that we saw out there, this is a person who was good that he was confirmed. President Trump has said he's going to appoint rule of law justices, and he did so.
Okay, that is all the time we have for questions, so we'll move on to the closing statement portion of this broadcast, and we'll start with you, Senator Whitmer.
You've got 2 minutes.
Thank you. Well, a governor impacts our lives in profound ways every single day. From the minute you wake up and turn on your tap and brush your teeth, to the roads that you travel on your way to work, to the schools that your kids attend, or just the ability to live in good health and with dignity in this state. At the beginning of this campaign, I chose the Mackinac Bridge as my logo, and I did it for an important reason. I want you to understand why. I love this state. I'm proud to be a Michigander. That Mackinac Bridge symbolizes who we are in Michigan. We are problem solvers and innovators. We believe in hard work and grit and one another. This is the place that people came to from around the world for opportunity. The mighty Mac was open to traffic 61 years ago. It was built at a time when we had a Democratic governor and a Republican legislature. People didn't think they could work together to build that bridge. People doubted whether or not you could even build a bridge that was 5 miles long, a suspension bridge over the Straits of Mackinac, where 2 Great Lakes meet. But Michiganders came together and they forged ahead. They connected our people with this bridge and made our economy stronger. I know we can feel like it's pretty bleak right now when you watch the news, and yet I am confident that our Michigan values will lead us, drive us forward to a place where facts are facts, where we respect the free press, where we can have robust debate that is still respectful and inform the decisions that we make, where every one of us has a seat around the table and government works for you. And our politicians never forget they are public servants. So whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or someone who just loves this state, I'm asking for your vote November 6th. Let's get back to building bridges. And
Attorney General Schuette, for your closing statement, you also have 2 minutes.
Well, a day's away and it's election time. And while it's a choice between 2 people, Senator Whitmer and me, but it's something far more important. It's about you and your families and Michigan's future. And the first big question for Michigan is, will we go forward or will we go backward? Well, we're going forward. It's too risky to go backward. And the second question is, are you better off today than you were 8 years ago? And the answer is yes. We are better off than we were 8 years ago. And I have the experience to build on the success of the last 8 years and drive our state forward. As Attorney General, I have a record of accomplishment. I prosecuted Larry Nassar, who abused so many young ladies. I took the case. Gretchen Whitmer didn't do her job. And I made sure that every survivor's voice was heard. And now this predator is behind bars for the rest of his life, and I threw away the key. I took on the Flint water investigation, where 12 people died and thousands of children were poisoned. I took an oath of office to enforce the law. And Flint's all about accountability and making sure that citizens of Flint get justice. And I make no apologies for enforcing the law in Flint. And I'll take anyone on, and I'll fight for everyone. Now, Senator Whitmer, in her 14 years in the legislature, only passed 3 bills. And now she wants to be governor? That's not good enough for Michigan. As governor, I'll cut your taxes and lower your auto insurance rates. And Senator Whitmer's plan, job-crushing tax increases, more mandates will drive businesses out of Michigan. And if Gretchen Whitmer's governor, your job is in jeopardy. Your job is in danger. 2 very different candidates for governor. I'm going to drive Michigan forward, and Gretchen Whitmer would drive us into an economic ditch. And Michigan's best days are ahead of us if we have the right leadership. And I'm asking for your vote, please. And we can do this. Michigan can win again. Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, we wrap up this debate between the candidates for governor. We'd like to thank you both for joining us this evening.
And thank you very much for watching. I also want to thank the many people who have been sending us questions over these last couple of days.
So many, yeah.
Tons, and I'm sorry for the ones that we did not get to, but we appreciate you bringing the issues to light, if nothing else, for us. The election is now just about 2 weeks away. We continue our commitment, of course, to bringing you comprehensive political coverage leading up to Election Day, November 6th. Post-debate wrap-up show beginning just about a moment or so from now on clickondetroit.com with our Jason Carr. It takes an army to put together a night like tonight, so thanks to everybody here at Local 4 and the campaigns for all the cooperation that it took to bring this to you live. Thanks so much for being here.
Yep. Thanks for watching. Have a good night. We'll see you for the news tonight at 11.
Last time we had an election for governor, U.S. Senate, U.S. House, and the Michigan legislature, 56% of registered voters in Macomb County did not vote. 62% in Wayne County, 56% in Washtenaw County, and 52% of registered voters in Oakland County did not vote. Now we all have political opinions. Don't just share them online. Share them in the voting booth. Local 4 and Click on Detroit. Political coverage that matters.
With the midterm elections just days away, watch the competition for the control of Congress on C-SPAN. See for yourself the candidates and the debates from key House and Senate races. Make C-SPAN your primary source for campaign 2018.
C-SPAN's Washington Journal, live every day, with news and policy issues that impact you. Coming up Thursday morning, Democratic strategist Steve McMahon and Republican strategist Todd Harris talk about the best and worst political ads of the 2018 elections. And Boston College Law School professor Ray Madoff joins us to discuss estate and inheritance tax laws. Be sure to watch C-SPAN's Washington Journal, live at 7 Eastern Thursday morning. Join the discussion.
Next, a debate between the candidates for Washington State's 5th District seat in the U.S. House. Republican Conference Chair Kathy McMorris Rodgers faces Democrat Lisa Brown. We're live now from Walla Walla Community College. This debate courtesy of Northwest Public Broadcasting.
The Canadian border